Thank you so much, everyone, for staying with us. The attention is on President Bola Tinubu's agenda to allow those who cannot be able to fund their own education in tertiary institution to be able to get some assistance, and therefore there was a bill initially that has been now tweaked and signed into law. Recently, the president appointed a board to be chaired by a notable Nigerian banker and entrepreneur, Mr. Jim Ovia. Now, that board has been set up to be chaired by him, and the man to run the Nigerian Education Loan Fund is Mr. Akintunde Sawyer. He joins us live here in our studio. Thank you so much indeed for joining us tonight.
Thank you very much for having me. It's great to be back here again.
Great. So the last time you were here, your title was different.
Yes.
A lot of things have changed since the last time. The bill was not signed into law, but it's now been signed. So a lot of things have changed, isn't it?
Yes, absolutely. So in the original bill, which was in fact signed on the 12th of June 2023, there are a number of things that weren't quite workable in terms of being able to give people loans. So there were limits like, ₦500,000 naira, 500,000 naira earning per household. If you earned over 500,000 naira, you couldn't get the loan. There were also some onerous conditions there, like you had to go and get guarantors who are people of notable and good standing in society to help you be able to get the loan or to guarantee that you would pay back. That's gone, because we saw that as an opportunity for graft and for holding a gun to people's heads. And besides, lots of the people who want this loan don't know people in that category. The other thing was that the original bill, or should I say the act that was there before, really didn't allow for us to provide upkeep to the applicants. It was only for school fees or for institutional charges. That's gone. So we can now provide upkeep as well. So it's actually looking very good.
Yeah. So it looks like maybe the president heard some of the conversation we had the last time. Yeah. Because when we were having the conversation, I wasn't quite comfortable with some of the things that were in that law, because I was reading it, I thought, great idea, but I made comparison actually with 3 other countries that give students opportunities to get loan to study. But I see that bill was somewhat very stringent in terms of the conditions. But let's get it straight and break it down. I'm excited that a lot of people are already, launching out to apply for this. How many applications have you gotten so far since you opened up?
Okay, so far we've had 60,000 plus registrations. In fact, it's
registration, not applications.
Registrations, not applications. For loans, we've had about 50% of that. So about 35,000 people have actually applied for loans. So it's about 50% of the registrations. There's a reason for that disconnect. So the registrations are people who've been able to access the site, go and set up an account, because we allow you to set up an account, username, password, and then you've got a dashboard that stays with you until the end of the process. The next step is the application for the loan itself. There's a little bit of a disconnect in that area because some of the institutions haven't provided complete and accurate data. So that's being resolved, and every day we're dealing with it. There are also some applicants who've had specific issues, with entering the right digits, the right data. It's alphanumeric, most of the verification codes that are required, and if you make a mistake, it doesn't go through. The great thing is that we've captured 60,000 people for sure who want this loan. We're going to work through the teething problems they have and then be able to enable them to actually apply for the loan.
Fantastic. For those who perhaps the application is still open, isn't it?
Oh, the application remains open.
Fantastic.
We've got lots
all year round.
All year round.
Absolutely.
We are starting this process, and we want to make sure that we catch as many people who need this loan as possible. That's what the president wants. The application is open.
Is your net unlimited?
What do you mean by that?
I mean, it's your catchment.
Oh.
And the opportunity, your banking, is it unlimited? Because I'm imagining there's a cap on what you can give every year.
Okay, so there is a cap of sorts. So there are 1.8 million people in state-owned, when I say state, I mean federal and state-owned tertiary institutions. That's the capacity today in that academic space.
So it's only for state-owned institutions, not private-owned institutions. So imagine Edo State University and University of Nigeria in Nsukka, which is a federal university.
Yeah.
So those are the kind of universities that can benefit, the student from that can benefit.
So the law currently, as it sits, says that those are the only types of institutions.
No private institutions.
No private at the moment. Now, there's a very good reason for that. Most of the types of students that we are trying to assist, trying to help, trying to capture, tend to attend non-private institutions. Mm-hmm. They're cheaper, they're less expensive. That's where most of the people that we want to help go. So as a blanket sort of catchment, those are the areas we want to focus on first. We want to help the people who need this loan the most first. Once we've done that, then of course the National Assembly and the President, who has expressed an interest in ensuring that everybody can apply for this, there probably is going to be an opportunity at some point in the future, I can't determine that, where the net is expanded to include private institutions. Right.
So now, let's get it straight. So for the benefit of those who are still thinking, I'm not aware, what's the website, don't get confused. So I've got a help for you. Just go to nelf.gov.ng. nelf.gov.ng. I have the website right for you over there on your screen, and you can just scroll up and scroll down. There is a portion for you to sign in. You get your dashboard. There is a process to apply and all of it, and all of the information that you need right there on that website. It is a Nigerian Education Loan Fund, and of course, you can get all of the information. They say it's more than a financial aid program. The Student Loan Initiative, support the federal government of Nigeria, is a beacon of hope for Nigerian students pursuing higher education. So give me a sense of now, what is the benchmark that you can get every year? So no matter what level you are, you can apply either 100 level or your final year.
Sure.
Is that right?
Absolutely. So as long as you are in a federal institution, a state institution, already in the institution, or you want to join the institution, the loan application is open to you. Clearly, if you're in your final year or midway through your final year and your fees have been paid, we can't help you in that instance. And we don't go retrospectively, we don't go backwards to go and provide loans for people who've already paid. But going forward, everyone who's in the institution or entering the institution is eligible to apply. So
tuition is one that you can pay for. What about hostel and accommodation?
Okay. So what we haven't done is broken it down into various components. What we've done is said, look, we will pay 100% of the institutional charges. So the institution has a number of charges which may include things like tuition at the state level. However, there are other charges outside of the institutional charges that students need. They need money for data, they need money for airtime,
for books, for handouts,
they need money for photocopying. All of that is captured in an upkeep allowance that we determine and provide to the individual.
What is the standard for the upkeep for an average student?
Well, we haven't figured out what the standard is. At the moment, what we've got is an algorithm that looks at where the institution is, the cost of living in that particular area. As you can imagine, if you're living in Akoka, the rental requirements in an area like that is very different to if you're in a place like Kafanchan, for example. You know, the costs are different. So we're trying to take an intelligent look at this and say, hey, look, this is what we think you might require.
The economics of it.
The economics of it, yes. So that we're not giving people a token that's not taking them anywhere. And we're not giving people the same amount in a rural setting as we're giving them in a more expensive.
But I imagine, Mr. Sawyer, that federal government institutions have some kind of a standard in the tuition and institutional charges. And you see faculty fees, departmental fees, this and that and blah, 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 that you all pay. So I'm glad that it covers all of that. If you say institutional fees, these are all institutional fees.
Correct.
It goes into the pocket of the institution.
Absolutely.
So I imagine the federal government fees are, they are almost standard in most of the federal institutions in terms of the tuition.
Well, you say almost standard, but remember that there are different courses. A student can be studying history or English, very different to if they're studying pharmacy or medicine, which has different requirements for input from the institution. There are greater charges in some courses. And by the way, some of these courses last for longer. Some are 3 years, some are 4 years, some are 5 years. We will cover As long as they're applying on a yearly basis, we'll cover the entire institutional charges, regardless of the course that the individual is studying.
Interesting. So when is a student expected to pay back?
Okay, so it's a loan, so there's certainly an expectation of payback. The law, which we have put guidelines around, requires the actual reporting of your status to begin 2 years after National Youth Service Corps. Notice I said reporting of your status. You're expected to come back to the NELFUND to say, hey, look, 2 years have gone since I did my National Youth Service Corps. Now I'm in a position to begin to pay, or I'm not in a position to pay. As long as we get that reporting at regular intervals, we'll be able to determine who needs to pay and when. But the minimum time that we expect that sort of reporting back to us is 2 years after Youth Corps.
I'm just wondering and looking, by your accent, I imagine that you have some education outside of the country. Somewhere, not in the Americas, but somewhere in Europe or maybe Britain.
Accents can be a bit deceptive. Yeah, they can be deceptive. So
the reason why I'm dragging your leg is this. I'm looking at what my work, because you are at that stage, you're still trying out some of these things, and is a novel idea right here in Nigeria. We've not been used to that system. So I imagine that the social security status of a citizen might help. That way, you can be able to pull up what the person is owing, what the person is earning, because you cannot run away from your shadow. Because governments in those kind of crimes, your data basically is on your forehead. We can't see, but it's just there because of your social security, which in Nigeria is your NIN.
Correct. And
I don't know if those are some of the data, because I'm imagining that somebody might just evaporate into the thin air after graduation. And some people, unfortunately, there are a huge number of them. You look at the unemployment rate in Nigeria, over 30%. So you look at a lot of them who may not get jobs after their NYSC. Is there some kind of moratorium for such people?
Okay, so there is a moratorium. And if you recall, what I was trying to say earlier is that the reporting is 2 years after National Youth Service Corps. Reporting literally means reporting. It doesn't mean paying back. If an individual fails to secure a job 4 years after National Youth Service Corps, we are not going to go after them for the funds. What we're going to do is ask them to report to us regularly that they are not working, they are not earning. If they're earning, then there is a requirement to repay a percentage of what they've borrowed back on a monthly basis. In any event, the way that we have set this up is that if they go into employment, it is the employer who has an obligation to go and look, as you said, at the NIN, for example, to see whether there's a loan attached to that. If there's a loan attached to the NIN, the employer then has the obligation to report to NELFUND that we've just employed this particular individual, we're paying them this much money, and this percentage is going to be remitted to NELFUND every month.
All right. So the institutional fees that are being charged by the school, the fund goes straight from NELFUND to the school, but the upkeep goes to the student.
That is exactly what happens. The fund for the institutional charges we pay directly to the institution. And what that does is that we provide the individual with evidence that we have given you the loan, the funds have gone directly to the institution. The institution is informed that on behalf of the individual and behalf of the loanee, the funds have come to you. So give them unfettered access to studying in that institution. The upkeep we pay directly, as you rightly said, to the individual. Yeah. They're the ones that need it. They're adults in most cases. They make decisions as to how they spend their funds. Yeah. The funds go straight to them so that they can look after themselves and support their education.
So the ages, there's a discrimination right now. The law says 40 years, you'll not be able to apply if you are over 40. But is there a minimum age also, isn't it?
Well, there's a minimum age by law in which you can enter into a contract. Okay, so you have to be an adult to enter into a contract. So for example, if you're 16, you can't, it wouldn't be responsible lending for us to lend to a 16-year-old. But from the age of 18, you can enter into a contract with the NELFUND, and therefore be able to access the loan. The maximum age is put there, not by law, by our guidelines, because what we're trying to do is ensure that this fund is available as a loan to those who can maximally improve themselves, not professional students, not people who are doing a second or third degree, but by people who actually have a career ahead of them. They have the time to look for work, they have the time to do the work, and they have the time to actually contribute meaningfully for a long period of time to the economy.
So what happens to the kids who get into university before 16 or by 16?
Well, with respect to NELFUND, because we have to act as a responsible lender, they would not be eligible to sign the loan themselves.
What about locals and parentates? Those, their parent, guardian, can't they help in securing the loans for them?
Well, absolutely, they can. So a parent can, on behalf of their child, enter into a loan agreement. However, it's important to recognize that a parent signing a loan agreement on behalf of their child, the liability or the exposure to that loan is with the parent, because effectively, you can't. And
the parent cannot apply. It can only be the student.
The beneficiary. The beneficiary are the ones who can. Their parents can apply on their behalf.
Okay.
However, the loan is then tied to the parents. Okay, but
all got into the university before the age of 16. That's the point I'm making.
I know.
And so
I know exactly.
It doesn't mean that I wouldn't have been able to benefit if this was my period until maybe 300 level or more.
Well, yes, but you can imagine a situation where you give a loan to somebody who's 16, and then when they're 25, they say, well, I didn't really know what I was doing. And in reality, that would be correct. They're not of age, so why would we, as a responsible...
contractual standard, it's voidable.
It's voidable, and also it's irresponsible lending. We wouldn't want to be in that situation.
I know that as you get along, there will be a review here and there, because there are a lot of, you just see a protest at your door from young Nigerians who say, we also should be able to be part.
Yeah.
But I think it's a novel idea. We need to give kudos to this government for getting this started. Yeah. It will avail a lot of people to get into school and get them education. Well, thank you so much, Mr. Akintola.
Thank you very much, and I'd like to thank you for having me on your show. And you're absolutely right. This is a novel idea, the president's vision, and I believe that this is going to be a game changer for this country, this great nation, Nigeria. I
wish you the very best. If you need help, just come to us, because we are going to support anything that is good in this country for the interest of our Nigerians.
I'm so pleased to hear that.
Thank you so much. I
appreciate you very much. Thank you.
All the best, Mr. Sawyer.
All right.
Well, that's our show for today and for this weekend until Sunday, actually, 8 o'clock. God bless Nigeria.